intelligent person believe in God? The only reason for this question to come up is this. People who claim to be agnostics, atheists, humanists and secularists often think of themselves as an intellectual elite. They are few in number and they are arrogant, rational materialists.
American politician and atheist Robert Ingersoll, who lived in the 19th century, boasted, "Throughout the centuries there has been a mortal battle between a few courageous men of thought and genius on the one hand and vast ignorant religious mass on the other." Atheism and superiority complex that goes together with it is especially common among some leading scientists. In the article entitled "Scientists Keep the Faith," published in Nature on April 3, 1997, Edward Larson and Larry Witham noted that about 40% of the American physicists believe in a personal God. Presumably, an even larger percentage believe in an impersonal God. Given that science is considered godless, this percentage is quite high, but in a follow-up study, the authors found that among the members of the National Academy of Sciences, the so-called high priests of the intellect, only 7% believed in a personal God.
If you believe in God and in the importance of intelligence, education and courtesy in human relations, how should we react to such arrogant atheism? As a first step, one must recognize that even given all the arrogance, atheists are in fact no different from believers, since both believe in what they cannot prove by means of science.
The thing is that an atheist who refuses to believe in God cannot avoid believing in something else, otherwise he must admit that he believes in nothing. Even agnostics who somehow manage to live their lives without thinking about the most important questions of existence have to believe in something in between. Apparently, for most of them, this something must be atheism. Experience has shown that atheists generally believe that there are highly fortunate coincidences in the universe created by chance. We capitalized this word because in every way chance is the god of atheists. As the 19th century English poet Francis Thompson noted, an atheist is a person who considers himself an accident.
But within the broader understanding of atheism, there are different forms, movements, denominations if you want.
First, there are the agnostics, whom we will call unconfident atheists, because while admitting that there is a possibility of the existence of God, they admit they are not entirely sure of it. From their point of view, the question is still open. There are also arrogant atheists that were mentioned at the beginning of this video. These are people with a low coefficient of spirituality, professing intellectualism. First of all, arrogant atheists feel the need to believe that they are smarter than everyone else. In addition, there are those who can be called humble atheists. They worship intellectualism, but are honest enough to admit that their faith is not perfect. A science fiction writer, Isaac Asimov, once described his humble atheism as follows: "I have been an atheist for many years, but in some way I felt that it was not quite right to claim to be an atheist, because such a statement implies the presence of some knowledge that I really don't have. I have no proof of the non-existence of God, but I'm so sure of it that I just don't want to waste my time." And another denomination, perhaps the most perplexing, is what might be called Christian atheists, those who accept the values of Christianity but reject God. Paul must have spoken of them, predicting having a form of godliness but denying its power. One of the most prominent Christian atheists is Edward Wilson, the Pulitzer Prize-winning social biologist at Harvard. He was a member of the Southern Baptist Church, but at the age of 17 or 18, he began to lose faith. He no longer believes in a personal God, but he says this: "I don't give up on my Christian education. I'm a Christian to the core in my ideals and ethics, especially with regard to faith in justice, awareness of duty to others, as well as the virtues of mercy, tolerance, and generosity, which we identify with traditional Christian teaching." Also, don't forget about rebellious atheists. for whom the rejection of God is a part of their rejection of authority as such. Their God is individualism. For example, the American feminist Pauline de Clare, after many failed suicide attempts, died of diseases caused by living in poverty. But before her death, she proudly declared, "I die just as I lived, with a free soul, an anarchist, not subject to any authorities, neither heavenly nor earthly." And finally, the so-called atheistic atheists, that rare kind of people who worship neither God, nor intellectualism, nor individualism, only some omniscient, omnipotent abstraction. An example of such an atheist is the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, who lived in the 19th century. Karen Armstrong, the author of History of God, explains that for Schopenhauer there was no absolute, no mind, no God, no spirit that acts in the world, nothing but an instinctive desire to live.
Contrary to the defamation of arrogant atheists, those of us who believe in God are actually part of very respectable society. Here is the simplest proof.
According to the study by Harris in 2003, among Americans who have a degree, in other words, among the most educated people in the United States, vast majority, 85%, believe in God. Yes, the percentage is surprisingly high, isn't it? In fact, there is nothing to be surprised at. At different times and in different countries, there were free-thinking, educated people of remarkable intelligence, from Solomon and Leonardo da Vinci to William Shakespeare and Henry David Thoreau. Their IQ surpassed the IQ of most arrogant atheists. At the same time, they all reflected on the evidence of nature and life and came to the same conclusion. Reality is something more than just space and time, matter and energy, logic and reason. Even Albert Einstein, the quintessence of human intelligence, discovered this for himself. He didn't believe in God in accordance with any particular religion and repeatedly claimed to have sold his body and soul to science. However, he clearly stated the following, a quotation from Max Jammer's authoritative book Einstein and Religion. "I am not an atheist and I do not think I can call myself a pantheist." Einstein believed in one God and often read the Bible. He didn't ridicule our religious inclination to reverence for the creator of the universe. He, on the contrary, defended it. A kind of religious reverence lives in every true explorer of nature, for it seems impossible to him that he was the first to invent extremely thin threads connecting his perceptions.
In fact, people with high IQs and high SQs, spirituality quotient, who have stereoscopic faith, are real heroes of human history.
In the 5th century, when the barbarians ravaged the once almighty Roman Empire, sincere Christians became the main guardians of Western civilization. They turned monasteries into schools, founded libraries and worked in scriptoria, workshops where they diligently copied sacred and secular books by hand. Centuries later, their superhuman efforts, combined with those of their Jewish and Islamic counterparts in the Arab world, marked the beginning of the European Renaissance. Men of stereoscopic faith also founded the world's first modern colleges, among them the University of Paris with its legendary Sorbonne, and the University of Oxford, the oldest institution of higher education in the English-speaking world. When the Puritans arrived in the New World, one of their first initiatives was the creation of Harvard College, the most famous university in North America. Subsequently, Christians of all denominations founded many educational institutions, which today are among the most prestigious. High IQ and spiritual individuals and organizations that sought to express their faith in the supernatural created, developed, inspired, nurtured, perfected and made a stand for countless innovations in art, music, literature, architecture, education and even science, all the beautiful things we call culture today. Christianity, for example, was the main protector of the most gifted musical geniuses of all time, from Bach and Beethoven to Mozart and Messiaen. Many popular music genres have religious roots. Similarly, architects with high IQs and high SQs have created some of the most famous structures of all time, including 5 of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, such as the Great Pyramid of Cheops in Egypt, the Temple of Artemis, and the Mausoleum of Halicarnassus. Let's also remember the Taj Mahal, Notre Dame Cathedral, Westminster Abbey, the Alhambra, and many other constructions. Architectural styles, Byzantine, Romanesque, Gothic, were a result of our irresistible desire to build beautiful, lofty, inspiring places to worship God. Finally, people with stereoscopic faith have played a decisive role even in the development of the arch-rival of religion, science. Right, all the time we hear of cases when religion and science fight, like creation versus evolution. However, these are exceptions. In fact, if, over the centuries, there hadn't been a number of intellectual revolutions led by people with high IQs and high SQs, science would be different from what we know it to be today. Albert the Great, patron of naturalists, is the ancestor of modern geology. René Descartes is the father of modern Western philosophy. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz and Isaac Newton, discoverers of mathematical analysis. Robert Boyle is one of the founders of modern chemistry and the Royal Society of London, one of the most elite associations of professional scientists in the world. Gregor Mendel, the father of modern genetics. Nicolaus Copernicus, the father of modern astronomy. Georges Demeter, the father of modern cosmology. Galileo Galilei is one of the founders, together with Newton, of the scientific revolution. Many of these eminent scientists were earnest religious figures. All of them, with a high IQ and spirituality, considered science to be the way to study God's creation. Today, their names are included in the encyclopedias of Western science.
In other words, despite their arrogance, atheists cannot honestly say they are smarter than those who believe in God. But they cannot be accused of being stupider. As a matter of fact, either side has people whose IQ includes the entire intellectual spectrum, from very smart to very stupid. The real difference between them is their spirituality quotient, SQ.
It is quite objective that atheists have a relatively low SQ. Science. It is quite objective that atheists have a relatively low SQ, since they only believe the obvious: human mind, nature, or the laws of science. And on the contrary, people who believe in God have a higher SQ, as they are able to see reality more deeply, distinguishing the creator of this intelligence, nature, and laws.
However, due to the fact the atheists still have a certain coefficient of spirituality, no matter how superficial their gods may be, they can be considered religious.
At the end of 19th, beginning of the 20th century, the English journalist and unconfidential atheist John Morley confirmed this when he urged science to step forward. Another great task of science is to create a religion for mankind. In the words of modern science fiction writer and atheist Kurt Vonnegut Jr., we can feel this spiritual longing. I hope that for many children of the earth, the first footstep on the moon will become sacred. We need shrines. So, atheists are by no means an exception to the religious rule and are not a cold-blooded elite of reason. Deep down, even they cannot avoid having spiritual reaction to what they perceive only from scientific point of view. We can say that with their SQ, they can only have an idea of what people with a higher SQ are able to perceive with clarity. Spiritual quotient of atheists is not enough for them to see beyond the obvious, but it is enough to feel the impetus that makes us all kneel down when he contemplate the beauty and majesty of our amazing universe.
Can an intelligent person believe in God? Well, what if we invert this question? Can an intelligent person not believe in God? Think about it and leave the answer in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The most interesting is waiting for you ahead. Also, in order to help us producing such high-quality content, support our project financially. Wish a peaceful sky to all of us. We hope to see you again.